So if you are about to spend, thousands of dollars on a high-tech cosmetic laser treatment, being a vegan might actually, secretly guarantee that the entire procedure completely fails.
It really is the ultimate hidden variable. You can go to the absolute best clinic, use the most expensive machine on the market,
Right.
and you could still end up with zero results. Or worse, even severe scarring, simply because of the food that's on your plate.
Which is wild because normally when we talk about a clinical procedure, there's this expectation of precision, right? Like engineering.
Exactly.
You break your arm, the x-ray shows a jagged white line, the doctor puts it in a cast, and the bone fuses. It's visible, you can measure it.
The variables in that scenario are highly controlled. You know exactly what you're dealing with, which is, comforting for the patient.
But the moment you step into the world of tissue regeneration, cosmetic procedures, cellular biology, that x-ray machine is essentially useless.
Totally used.
We are looking at a clinical landscape that is just entirely dependent on invisible metabolic processes. So today we are doing a deep dive into how your dietary lifestyle, specifically a plant-based diet, determines the success or failure of these tightening treatments.
Right.
Can a vegan diet actually affect your response to a tightening treatment? The short answer is yes. The long answer is this incredibly fascinating look into human biology.
It really is. This topic beautifully bridges the gap between, the grocery aisle and the cutting-edge lasers in medical clinics.
Right.
It forces us to look past the marketing brochures of these expensive treatments and just examine the raw biology of what is actually happening to the tissue.
And we have a massive stack of sources for this deep dive.
Yeah.
We are pulling from clinical guidelines established by the American Urological Association. We've got dermatological clinic notes out of Harley Street in London.
The famous Harley Street, right?
Yeah. Plus research from the Kahn Center for Cardiac Longevity and some really heavy deep dive nutritional data.
It's a lot to unpack.
It is. Our mission today is to uncover how a plant-based diet impacts the body's response to collagen-stimulating procedures. We're talking about everything from fractional laser skin resurfacing on your face to energy-based vaginal tightening treatments.
But to understand the nutritional impact, we first have to shatter this massive illusion about the treatments themselves.
Oh, yeah. There is this pervasive idea that when you get a laser tightening treatment, whether that's a fractional CO2 laser for facial wrinkles or treatments like FemiLift for vaginal tissue elasticity, that the laser is physically pulling the skin taut.
Like a shrink wrap effect.
Exactly. People imagine holding a hairdryer to plastic film, but lasers do not tighten anything directly.
No, not at all. The machine is causing controlled thermal damage. That is its sole biological function.
Right.
If we look at continuous CO2 lasers as an example, the laser energy penetrates the tissue and rapidly targets the water inside your cells. We are talking about heating the subdermal tissue to anywhere between 120 and 200 degrees Celsius.
Which is literally past the boiling point of water. You are vaporizing the liquid inside the cell.
You really are. The intense heat vaporizes targeted cells instantly and causes thermal coagulation in the surrounding areas. The tissue is completely destroyed.
It's trauma.
It's trauma, but this massive thermal shock triggers an emergency response system in the body. When your cells are heated to that extreme, the body instantly spikes the production of heat shock proteins.
I actually saw this in the Harley Street sources. Heat shock protein 47, right? Or HSP47.
Yes. And what's fascinating here is that HSP47 acts as a biological chaperone.
A chaperone.
Yeah, so in biology, a chaperone protein ensures that other proteins fold into their correct 3D shapes. HSP47's specific job is to bind to newly synthesized procollagen and help it fold correctly into a triple helix.
Okay, so the laser creates the heat triggers these emergency chaperone proteins.
Exactly.
And those proteins signal your fibroblasts, which are the cellular factories that make up your structural framework, to just start working overtime.
Precisely. And at the exact same time, the body releases matrix metalloproteinases, or MMPs.
Right, the demolition crew.
Right. If the fibroblasts are the builders, the MMPs are the demolition crew. They sweep in and clear out all the old damaged tissue and fragmented collagen from the burn site.
Wow.
The ultimate goal of this highly violent process is neocollagenesis, which is basically tricking the body into laying down fresh, brand new type I and type 3 collagen.
So the machine only initiates the trauma. Your biology is what actually dictates the repair.
Yes, and this is a crucial paradigm shift for anyone considering these treatments.
So a laser is basically just a really aggressive construction foreman yelling at your body's cells to build a wall. But if there are no bricks lying around the construction site, absolutely nothing gets built, right?
That's a great analogy.
Well, if the laser is just the foreman, is the actual tightening 100% dependent on the patient's biology rather than the machine?
It is entirely dependent on the biological response, yes, which is why nutrition is so critical. But before we get to the bricks, we do need to impartially address a major controversy in our sources regarding some of these energy-based treatments.
Oh, right. The vaginal applications?
Right. We have to look at this impartially because the clinical data presents a very divided landscape here.
Yeah, it really does.
These laser and radiofrequency devices are heavily marketed to treat genitourinary syndrome of menopause, or GSM. However, the FDA has issued clear public warnings against using energy-based devices for vaginal rejuvenation.
Yeah, the FDA reports cite risks of pretty severe adverse events, including deep burns, scarring, and chronic pain.
Yeah, exactly. And the medical guidelines, including those from the American Urological Association, they acknowledge that while these lasers aim to induce collagen remodeling and improve blood supply in the vaginal tissue, the absolute gold standard and highly evidenced treatment for GSM symptoms remains targeted therapies.
Like local vaginal estrogen. And the sources clarify that local vaginal estrogen isn't systemic, meaning it doesn't carry the same broad risks as whole-body hormone replacement pills, and it actually actively reduces things like recurrent UTIs.
Right, so the laser is definitely not a magic wand, and regulators are highly scrutinizing its use in certain areas.
But whether a patient is undergoing a controversial vaginal laser or a highly accepted facial skin resurfacing, the fundamental biological mechanism remains identical, right?
Absolutely identical. The laser causes trauma, and the body alone has to heal it.
Which introduces just an immense metabolic toll on the patient.
Massive. This is not a localized, isolated event. Recovering from a laser is a systemic metabolic marathon.
This blew my mind when reading the Harley Street Surgical Clinic notes. Because the laser relies entirely on your natural repair system, your body treats the aesthetic procedure like a major traumatic injury.
It doesn't know the difference between a cosmetic laser and a severe burn.
Exactly. The clinical guidance for post-laser healing mandates a massive jump in protein intake. They recommend 1.2 to 1.5 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight.
And just to put the math on that, if you weigh 150 pounds, you are looking at around 81 to 102 grams of protein a day.
That is a lot.
Every single day during the entire healing phase.
Yeah.
Which, can last for weeks.
Okay, let's unpack this for a second. I completely understand a massive protein requirement for someone recovering from an invasive open cavity surgery.
Sure.
But if someone is just popping into a clinic for a quick 15-minute non-invasive laser session on their face during their lunch break, does their body really go into an absolute panic that requires hundreds of extra calories and over 80 grams of protein?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we have to recognize what the skin barrier actually represents to human physiology.
Okay.
It is your primary immune defense. It keeps the outside world out. Any disruption to that barrier, even microscopic invisible disruptions from a lunchtime non-ablative laser, acts as a massive systemic alarm.
Oh, wow.
The immune system is activated to prevent potential infection. Blood flow is aggressively redirected to the face, and huge amounts of amino acids are pulled from your bodily reserves to rebuild the extracellular matrix.
So you really do need all those extra bricks to build the wall.
You do.
And the sources detail exactly what those biological bricks are. Collagen is a complex protein primarily made of 3 specific amino acids: glycine, proline, and hydroxyproline.
Right.
And glycine alone makes up a full 1/3 of the entire collagen structure. If you do not have enough of these specific amino acids floating in your bloodstream at the exact moment the laser foreman yells build, the fibroblasts literally have nothing to build with.
And it gets more complicated because you cannot just provide the bricks. You need the mortar and the tools to construct the wall, too.
The cofactors.
Exactly. This is where vital cofactors come in. Vitamin C is arguably the most critical cofactor. Vitamin C is required for the specific enzymes that modify proline so it can form that strong, tight, triple helix structure of collagen.
Without it, it just falls apart.
Without vitamin C, collagen formation fails entirely at the cellular level.
I noticed in the historical medical notes that this is exactly why sailors centuries ago got scurvy.
Yes.
It wasn't just that they felt fatigued. Their old scars would literally split open because their bodies couldn't maintain the collagen holding their tissue together without the vitamin C from citrus fruits.
The existing collagen simply breaks down. It's terrifying. And alongside vitamin C, your body mandates high levels of zinc.
Okay.
Zinc is crucial for DNA synthesis and cross-linking the new collagen fibers so they're actually durable and tight. And then you need copper.
Copper?
Yeah, copper activates an enzyme called lysyl oxidase, which is an absolute requirement for the newly formed collagen to mature and gain real structural strength.
Okay, so knowing exactly what strict nutrients are demanded by this intense laser recovery process, high amounts of specific complete proteins, vitamin C, zinc, and copper, we now have to test the plant-based lifestyle against these rigid clinical requirements.
And this is where we see the vulnerabilities. The clinical notes from the Harley Street dermatology clinics highlight a very clear pattern.
Yeah.
They observe that patients with poor nutritional status, which frequently includes unsupplemented vegans or vegetarians, face a significantly higher risk of delayed healing, wound breakdown, or highly undesirable scarring after energy-based procedures.
The primary hurdle outlined in the nutritional data is the amino acid profile itself, right? Because plant proteins are generally classified as incomplete.
Exactly. They often lack essential amino acids,
Yeah.
most notably lysine, which is a vital component for building stable collagen.
So to get a complete amino acid profile, a vegan patient has to be incredibly strategic with food combining.
Meticulous. They cannot just eat a handful of almonds and assume they hit their macros. They must pair grains with legumes at the exact same meal to form a complete protein chain.
Right.
If a patient isn't calculating their intake, they will easily fall short of that 81 to 102 gram daily protein target during the critical healing window.
And beyond the protein, there are massive micronutrient hurdles too. Vegans generally have lower circulating levels of zinc and vitamin B12, both of which are critical for the rapid cell proliferation required after a laser burn.
And then there is the severe issue with iron.
Oh, right, because iron is what delivers oxygen to the healing tissues.
Exactly. But plant-based iron is non-heme iron. Chemically, non-heme iron is much harder for the human digestive tract to absorb compared to the heme iron found in animal meat.
Right.
But to make matters worse, the absorption of plant-based iron is also actively blocked by compounds called tannins.
Tannins, those are heavily present in tea and coffee, right?
Yes, and the mechanism here is purely chemical. Tannins are polyphenols that have a molecular structure perfectly suited to binding with dietary iron in your digestive tract.
Oh, no.
Yeah. When they lock together in your stomach, they form this massive insoluble complex. It becomes too physically large to pass through the intestinal wall into your bloodstream.
So your body literally cannot absorb the iron and you just flush it out.
Exactly. If a patient eats an incredibly iron-rich spinach salad, but washes it down with a cup of black tea, the tannins bind the iron and the tissue gets starved of oxygen.
But wait, vegans eat massive amounts of vegetables, fruit, leafy greens. Those foods are absolutely packed with vitamin C and powerful antioxidants.
They are.
So shouldn't a hyperdose of plant-based antioxidants give them like an automatic biological advantage in fighting post-laser inflammation and supporting the collagen they do have? Why are the clinical sources so focused only on their deficits?
This raises an important question because the advantages of a plant-based diet are very real in everyday life. A diet rich in antioxidants is fantastic at protecting existing collagen from free radical damage caused by UV rays or pollution.
Okay.
But we have to make a critical distinction here. Protecting a house from a fire is not the same thing as building a brand new house from scratch on an empty lot.
Oh, that makes perfect sense. Wow.
Antioxidants reduce inflammation and protect what you already possess. But when the laser completely vaporizes and destroys the tissue, you must physically build new tissue.
Right. You need the bricks.
Exactly. And to build, you cannot just use antioxidants. You need heavy, dense, complete proteins. If the body goes searching for glycine and proline to rebuild the dermis and cannot find them in the blood, the healing process just stalls, regardless of how much vitamin C is floating around.
So if a vegan patient goes in for a $3,000 laser treatment and hasn't heavily managed their complete protein and zinc intake, they are basically paying a foreman to yell at an empty construction site.
That's exactly what's happening.
The redness will go away eventually, but the actual tightening effect will be minimal.
That is the harsh clinical reality for poorly managed plant-based diets. The raw materials simply are not there.
However, this is where the sources from Goldman Laboratories and the Kahn Center flip the script entirely.
Yes.
Vegans are not doomed to have poor aesthetic treatment responses. In fact, with modern biohacking and precision supplementation, a plant-based patient might actually achieve vastly superior results compared to someone eating a standard diet.
The clinical trials introduce us to the concept of vegan collagen, which, initially sounds like a biological impossibility.
Yeah, totally. Because true collagen is exclusively an animal protein. It comes from the connective tissue, bones, and skin of cows, pigs, or fish. It just does not exist in the plant kingdom.
Right. So how are the sources testing vegan collagen if it doesn't exist in nature?
Well, it exists now thanks to two major scientific breakthroughs. The first method utilizes advanced plant-based fermentation. Scientists take plant sources like corn and peas and use precision fermentation to extract individual free-form amino acids.
Right.
They then take those isolated plant amino acids and blend them in a laboratory to match the exact specific ratios found in human collagen, meaning the final powder is extremely heavy on the glycine, proline, and hydroxyproline.
So they aren't technically extracting collagen. They are gathering the exact Lego blocks needed to build it, perfectly sorting them out for the human body so the fibroblasts don't have to do any of the sorting themselves.
Exactly. And the second method is biosynthetic collagen. This involves genetic engineering at the microbial level.
Here's where it gets really interesting.
Oh, I know. Scientists are now genetically modifying microorganisms, specifically a type of yeast called Pichia pastoris. They take the specific human genes that encode for collagen production and insert those human blueprints directly into the yeast's DNA. As the yeast grows in fermentation tanks, it reads the human genetic code and literally manufactures and secretes the exact building blocks of human collagen.
They are programming yeast to sweat out human collagen.
Yes.
That is incredible. And the clinical results from the Kahn Center sources are staggering. Because this bioengineered formulation is built on the human genetic code, it matches human type I collagen better than bovine or fish collagen ever could.
Because it's literally based on us.
Right. It is a 98.8% match to human tissue. Animal collagen peptides are massive, clunky molecules.
Yeah.
When you eat bovine collagen, your body has to break it down, sort the amino acids, and hope they eventually make their way to your skin. Right. The biomimetic amino acid sequence from the yeast is recognized by the body instantly.
And the trials show this. The 8-week double-blind trial showed that subjects using this specific vegan collagen experienced a 32.9% reduction in wrinkles, a 7.7% increase in skin collagen density, and a 20% improvement in overall texture.
That's huge.
And what's crazy is the efficiency. The trial subjects only needed a tiny 5-gram dose of the vegan formulation per day compared to the 10 to 20 massive grams you normally have to choke down with animal collagen powders.
The localized tissue changes observed in these trials represent a massive leap in targeted nutrition.
But, and I have to push back here, are we absolutely sure this isn't just a very expensive placebo effect driven by the massive supplement industry?
Good, fair question.
I mean, the sources mention that the FDA does not review these dietary supplements for efficacy before they hit the market. And the European Food Safety Authority, the EFSA, outright rejects health claims for collagen entirely due to what they call insufficient evidence.
Right.
Maybe these trial participants are just sleeping better and drinking more water because they feel like they're doing something healthy.
We absolutely have to view supplement data with a highly critical eye, especially industry-funded data. The European Food Safety Authority is notoriously strict for a good reason. Swallowing a powder does not guarantee a medical outcome, and the supplement industry is, well, it's rife with inflated claims.
Right.
However, we have to look at how these specific trials measure success. They aren't just handing out patient satisfaction questionnaires and asking people if they feel glowing.
Right. They are using highly technical measuring devices.
Exactly. They use tools like corneometers, which use electrical capacitance to objectively measure the exact water content of the stratum corneum, which is the outermost layer of the skin.
Wow.
Even more importantly, they use Dermalab devices and confocal microscopes.
What is that?
A confocal microscope involves shooting a targeted light into the living skin and analyzing the light that bounces back to map the physical dermal structures in real-time 3D. A placebo effect might make someone feel highly confident, but it cannot trick a confocal microscope into measuring a 7.7% physical increase in dermal collagen density. The mechanical measurements prove the new tissue is physically present.
Okay, so combining all this data from the Harley Street surgical warnings to the Kahn Center's yeast breakthroughs, What is the ultimate biohacked protocol for a plant-based patient who wants to guarantee their laser procedure actually works?
If you are going into a tissue tightening procedure on a vegan diet, you must transition from passive eating to intentional metabolic management.
Okay.
First, you must secure a complete protein profile before the laser even touches your skin. You can achieve this by meticulously combining grains and seeds, or by utilizing an engineered biomimetic vegan collagen supplement to guarantee the fibroblasts have their building blocks.
Make sure the bricks are there.
Exactly. Second, you must manage your systemic inflammation. Because you aren't eating fish, you need to take algae oil to secure omega-3 fatty acids, specifically EPA and DHA.
And then there's the iron absorption issue with the tannins.
Right. So third, protect your oxygen delivery. If you drink tea or coffee, you must wait at least a full hour after eating your meals before consuming them, so that tannins pass through without binding to your dietary iron.
Okay.
Finally, you should intentionally pair your iron-rich plant foods like spinach or lentils with a heavy dose of vitamin C in the same meal. The vitamin C chemically reduces the iron into a form that forces the digestive tract to absorb it.
So what does this all mean for you? It means that if you were investing time, money, and intense physical discomfort into a clinical skin or tissue tightening procedure, your grocery list is just as important as your clinician's laser settings.
It really is.
A vegan diet can completely sabotage your treatment's response if you don't actively manage your intake of complete proteins, zinc, and bioavailable iron. You could go through all the pain of the heat shock proteins and the cellular vaporization for absolutely no visible result. But with precision supplementation like biomimetic vegan collagen and algae oil, you can supply your body's cellular construction workers with premium human-matched building blocks. You can potentially outperform standard diets entirely.
It fundamentally reframes the patient from being a passive recipient of a medical device to being an active, vital participant in their own cellular biology. You are in control of the outcome.
It is incredibly empowering.
Yeah.
And it leaves us with one final, very provocative thought to mull over. We've spent this whole deep dive exploring how a finely tuned diet supports the intense physical trauma of a laser. We know the laser is just a tool to trigger the fibroblasts.
Right.
But some of the dermatological sources briefly mention specific plant extracts. Things like gotu kola, known scientifically as Centella asiatica, and a compound called aloesin, derived from aloe vera.
Yes, the botanicals.
The clinical data show that these specific botanicals actively stimulate the fibroblasts to secrete human collagen on their own, completely independent of any heat shock or injury.
The mechanism of bypassing the trauma entirely is a profound area of ongoing study.
If we can engineer yeast to perfectly manufacture human collagen, and we are identifying exact plant extracts that chemically trigger the body to build it naturally, could a perfectly calibrated, hyper-targeted botanical diet eventually replace the need for the physical trauma of the laser altogether?
It's a huge question.
Will the future of tightening treatments just be a meticulously designed meal plan that tells your cells what to do without burning them first?
Now, that is a question that challenges the foundation of the entire aesthetic medical industry.
Something to chew on next time you see a clinic advertising a massive laser sale. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Remember, the laser might be the foreman yelling the orders, but you are the only one who can supply the bricks. Take care.